I'm Heather Barron.
And I'm Courtney Adams, and we're here at the Prairie Regional Synchronized Skating Championships on Shaw TV, and we'll be your guides throughout the competition. Now let's take a look at our first participants. This is the Beginner 2 category. And our first team on the ice is the Hazel Ridge Highlights from the Hazel Ridge Skating Club. So some unique features about the Beginner 2 category is this is some of our youngest synchro skaters we have here in Manitoba.
The Beginner 1 category consists of 8 to 16 skaters. They'll be skating for approximately 2 minutes and 10 seconds, and 75% of the skaters must not have reached the age of 12.
And so the first element we're going to be looking at here is their circle that they just transitioned out of. So anytime we're looking at synchro today, we're going to be looking for a variety of shapes down the ice. And with these little ones, it's pretty clear to see what they're doing. Right now, we're in the line element.
So they transition from their circle into the line, and then they'll make their way down with the line and get full ice coverage.
You'll notice with these wee little ones that we have some wearing helmets. It's that learn to skate sort of phase that we're in right now. And in the beginner element, we are starting to look at each individual item that they're doing on the ice in terms of a gold, silver, bronze, or merit level. So they're developing the individual skills that compile to be a whole program.
Yes, so this event is only judged by judges, and later on we'll see some tech specialists. But before that, this is actually the Carberry synchronized skating team.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it is.
Sorry about that. I must be out of order.
And so this is basically teams made up of girls who have just kind of made their way through the CanSkate program and are making their way through the CanSkate program.
So this team practices once a week. So they've learned a lot in a very short period of time to put all of this together, all these specific steps happening at the same time, as well as the different arm holds.
And they have picked an Anna Kendrick song, which has been a popular singer to skate to in the last couple years. And it says here that they've picked it because they're a fun and energetic group who wanted to skate to someone who had some fun music.
That's adorable.
And they've had a great skate, and they look like they're pretty happy about it. Their outfits are great and high energy. And now they're just trying to figure out which door they get off of. So they've done a great job. So our next team up will be the Rivers Silver Jets. They're based out of the Rivers Skating Club. And they're coached by Larissa Leptak, who is someone who's been involved in the sport for several years.
So the age range of these team members is age 7 to 11. So we have lots of young skaters out here.
And it says their music is Hawaiian Roller Coaster Ride. And I don't think this team has competed yet this year. So this is probably their first competition. They've maybe done some ice shows or something, but I don't think they've competed yet this year.
Oh, so lots of nerves and excitement out there. That's great.
And they're going to start off in a line. So you can kind of see they're lined up from shortest to tallest.
And made a nice transition there into 2 lines.
Yep.
So the idea is to keep those as parallel as possible.
And then you kind of see them split up into mirror images across the ice. And I actually think this might be the first year for this team competing.
Oh, that's awesome.
Because they were kind of a rec team, I think, for a year. I might be wrong, but
we just saw their intersection there, so that can be a little bit of a exciting element when you're this age, the passing through each other. You never quite know where your neighbors are going to go. And now you can see them in their circle element. And so you want a certain level of tension in there so that you can still rotate but maintain control of the circle. And so sometimes there's some tugging and pulling, but this group seems to have really good control of the shape and size of their circle.
And now from a circle into what looks like they're starting into their block. And so this team would have had a practice this morning. This level is one of the levels that didn't skate yesterday, so they just have one skate today at Prairie Regionals, where we're actually in day 2 of competition for most teams. So they would have been up early this morning to have a practice here.
Lots of smiles looking at us as they went by. And the neat thing about this block is that's actually pivoting. So there was a slower end and a faster end, and that's actually really hard to do, especially at this age.
And then they've kind of pivoted themselves right into a 3-spoke and then changed into a 2-spoke. So this is what we call the wheel element for them. And they had a lot of speed as a 3-spoke.
Yes.
Well done.
What a fun little program. Very nice to see the River Skating Club have a team here today at Prairie Regionals. So the next team to skate is Verdon Velocity from the Skate Verdon Club. And I just found this cute little note. So they say that they got their dresses first and then found music that would work with the dresses. So that's kind of unique. Sometimes it's dress before music, sometimes it's music before dress. So yeah, be really neat to see what this team comes up with.
And they are, I mean, a range of ages. So from 5 to 11. So sometimes it can be kind of difficult to find dresses to fit, you know, maybe a small 5-year-old and a tall 11-year-old or something like that. But so it's neat that they found their dresses first.
Another neat note is there's 5 new skaters to this team this year. So always nice to have new skaters to synchro and to these teams out in the rural areas.
And so they have already competed this year, so this isn't the first time they'll be in front of a Manitoba crowd. And so they're going to start with their wheel element, and this is a 4-spoke because, of course, there are 4 spokes on it.
So the beginner level, you're really just looking for shape, and you're looking for control over these elements so they don't get too fast or people swinging off the end. And this group does a really great job keeping a great speed for their different lines coming out of the wheel.
Yeah, and so there's 5 elements that a beginner 2 team is required to do. So of the 5, 1 is a block, and it needs to pivot. And they need a line. They need an intersection, which is sometimes referred to as a pass-through. They need a circle, and they need a wheel. And so they need to do that within their 2 minutes and 40 seconds. And yeah, judged on, you know, the actual elements and judged on skating skills as well.
So right now we're seeing their pivoting block, and we're looking for things like unison, shaping, space. So these young skaters are learning how to count their steps and make sure they're doing the correct steps. There's a variety of things other than just straightforward skating. There's some chassés, there's some swing rolls, those types of things.
And of course we want to see them kind of display the message of a theme. So the dresses are great and they fit the theme very well. Their hair is very cute, but then we're kind of looking for them to display the message, which they're doing great. So they did their line element, and now it looks like they might be setting up for their intersection.
You'll see they've gone to a handhold so that they can easily slide between each other. Oh, and a unique variation on that intersection.
Well done. Yeah, often the hands drop on both ends, but this one they hung on, which is kind of a little more difficulty. And so a lot of this music is from the Kung Fu Panda soundtrack.
I'd also like to give a shout out to Bird Velocity. That's where I got my synchro start back in the early 2000s. So, yeah, great synchro club that's been around for a long time.
Mm-hmm. And of course, Carberry already skated, so I'll give a delayed shout out to them. And the next team that has just stepped on the ice and they're kind of ready to start their warm-up block here is from Hazel Ridge High, or they're the Hazel Ridge Highlights, who skate in the Hazel Ridge Skating Club. They range in age from 5 to 10, and they practice once a week for 40 minutes. And they will be skating to, if you haven't guessed it yet, they'll be skating to the Viva Elvis soundtrack. And so this team is coached by by Jessica Watson, who's someone that we have skated with in the past. So Jessica Watson, Courtney and I skated with on Ice Intrepid. And Larissa Leptek coached the Rivers team, and we've also skated with her when we skated with Connection. So 2 teams that we'll see coming up later.
Lots of synchro history between you and I and all the coaches here.
And we see a lot of people kind of repeat and show up over again.
This team, you'll notice, right down to their skate laces, have a lot of the identical clothing on. So with synchro, you kind of just want to all look the same, and sometimes those little details just really bring it all together.
I think they might be blue suede shoes.
Yes, unreal. That's awesome. So now we're seeing their block element. We're doing a pivoting block, so one end was going faster, pivoting around the other end.
Right into a circle. And that's a great shape. It's important not to let your circles move too fast and get a little out of control. That tends to happen with all levels of synchro, because that momentum can really pull you around, but they've done great. So they're doing turns. They were going forwards initially, now they're going backwards, and then kind of turning back and forth.
So you can sort of anticipate what kind of challenges a team in the beginner category would face. You have some really young skaters here today who are still wearing helmets, probably just newly out of can skate within the last year or so, and some skaters who clearly have been skating for quite a while. So there's probably a lot of mentorship and teaching and guiding happening from older skaters to younger skaters out there, which is really nice.
Yeah, and so now they're in their line element, and that is a very fast line. Very straight. They move past the judges' stand in a very straight line.
That was fast.
Very fast.
Great music choice. I get the blue suede shoes now.
Yes.
And a very nice pass through there. And now we're seeing them do their wheel element, which is a two-spoke. So those end people, they really get flying. And when you're this little, it feels like you're just taking off in an airplane.
And they had a quick little break pulled apart by that momentum, but they sealed it back up again.
Great little skate there.
And the crowd really liked that a lot. It's fun music to skate to. And that ends our beginner 2 category. So next we'll move on to the elementary teams.
Welcome back to the 2018 Prairie Regional Synchronized Skating Championships on Shaw TV. I'm Courtney Adams, and with me is Heather Barron. And right now we will be moving on to the elementary category.
Sure, and some things about the elementary category. 8 to 16 skaters, like we've seen for pretty much every event that we'll see today, aside from adult. The skaters must be 15. Must not be 15 as of July 1st this past year. The programs will be about 2 minutes and 40 seconds. And they require 5 elements.
So the 5 elements you should expect to see are a pivoting element, which would be in the shape of a block. a linear element, which is the line element, an intersection element, which is sometimes called a pass-through, a rotating element, or also known as a circle, and another rotating element in the shape of a wheel.
Sure. So the only things that have changed from the beginner 2 category that we just saw is the age of the skaters. The 5 required elements stay the same. The time limit stays the same. But of course, they will be judged a little bit harder by the judges to be able to achieve, say, a gold merit.
Absolutely. And so this group is still judged under that same system with the gold, silver, bronze, and merit assessment on each element, and then for an overall sort of value. So for example, say they do their block, a group might receive a gold in their block, but maybe a silver in their circle. Overall, depending what they get on the various elements, they'll end up with a total, whether they fall in gold, silver, bronze. Multiple teams can be in bronze, multiple teams in silver. It's really about developing each element within a full program.
And so the nice thing about this way of judging is that there really isn't a winner. Everyone kind of just gets rated based on their own abilities. And then several teams can have a gold merit, or you could have had a silver merit at the last one and be trying for a gold this time. So it allows you to improve without being necessarily judged against each other.
Absolutely.
And so this team that's up first is another, I guess, hometown favorite of Courtney Adams, but Verdun Velocity, which is coached by Trisha Hayward.
And so this team found the music and then sort of determined a theme that would go from there. And they designed this dress specifically to go with the music, which will be lots of fun by the looks of it.
Yeah, and it's kind of a bit of a swing program. I've seen this one before, and they seem to have a lot of fun.
Yeah, 1920s Charleston swing theme. And there's 4 new skaters to this team this year.
And they've taken their ready position, and we'll call for their music. And they set up for their pass-through.
A unique variation on that one, with not both sides dropping their arms.
And then they move into their line, and they'll start at the far end, and I'm guessing they're going to come all the way down past us.
A little bit of a dance here to get us into the theme of this 20s Charleston theme.
Great unison.
Yeah, you'll notice as we go up in level, the unison just gets a little bit better, the speed gets a little bit faster, all with age and practice.
And you see those straight lines, which means that every person must push as hard as the person beside them, and each end has got to kind of stay even, so you've got to watch out of the corner of your eyes to make sure that your neighbor beside you isn't going faster or slower than you.
And here we are in a 3-spoke rotating wheel.
And forwards to backwards.
Yeah, nice little transition there.
And they pump around, and it looks like they're coming back in to go the other direction. Lots of speed on the ends, especially that longer line.
Sometimes there's this want to go really fast when you're a middle person, but then you send your friends on the end for a wild ride, so you kind of have to hold back a little bit.
Yeah, wheels move a lot faster on the end than they do in the middle.
Hard concept to get a hold of when you're a kid, too, because you just want to go fast all the time.
Yep.
Again, we're seeing the theme emerge here a little bit with some more dancing.
And they're all very confident in their steps. There's no, kind of stuttering at all.
Yeah, that's, every step is an actual planned step. There's no sort of free-for-all out here. And so these skaters are aware of what's happening every second out there for the whole 2 minutes and 40 seconds.
And so they just did their pivoting block kind of around us and around the corner, and now they've gone into a circle, of which they have another circle inside. So that adds a lot of difficulty. And a great ending.
Very fun program.
Yeah,
from
great
Verdon.
skate.
Our next team to come to the ice here is the Hazel Ridge Highlights from the Hazel Ridge Skating Club. This team is a team of 10 skaters, with skaters ranging ages 8 to 14. And here's a fun fact. Synchro has been in Hazel Ridge for over 35
Wow.
years. It's longer than you and I have been around.
And of course, Jessica Watson also coaching this team, so she's highly involved in the Hazel Ridge teams. She's also involved in several teams and other aspects throughout the province and judging and things like that. But she will be having a busy morning with all of these teams. She's also involved in an adult team. So.
And this team will be skating to the Moana soundtrack. Probably pretty popular, I would guess, across the country this year for synchro programs.
And I think already their dresses are pretty bang on for that theme.
Absolutely.
And so they already skated at sectionals this year, which was about 3 weeks ago or so, and they'll also be skating at Crocus, which is upcoming in Souris.
Oh, wonderful.
Hazel Ridge Skating Club. Please welcome Hazel Ridge Highlights.
So a little team huddle there before we get going. Last words of inspiration and focus.
And they're ready for their music.
And we're feeling that theme come alive already.
And so they're going to start out with a circle.
And so you'll notice that this circle is unattached. So the last team, they were holding arms, and this team has chosen the unattached. So spacing becomes a little bit more challenging when you're unattached, as well as maintaining equal speed to the people around you. Now they've got to an attached wheel.
I think 9 skaters I count out there.
Oh, okay.
So that can add a challenge when you're doing things like circles and other elements. Sometimes it's actually harder to skate with fewer people and harder to line up your elements that way.
And so now we're in the pivoting block, and a lot of speed moving through this block.
Yeah. Pivots very well. Those lines are nice and evenly spaced.
Coming really close to the boards here as well, so using every piece of available ice, which is good. Ice coverage is important.
And they're blocked into their line. And these transitions can actually be one of the hardest part of programs, getting out of one element correctly and into the next element correctly. It's actually sometimes harder than doing the actual elements themselves. Oh.
Well, this makes me want to be on a beach.
Very creative. Coach Jessica Watson is over here beside us, and she looks pretty happy, but she's definitely watching pretty intently.
This is a beautiful wheel here with 2 spokes, rotating nice and evenly, strong arms throughout.
And backwards skating. So of course, as you're young, skating forwards is quite a bit easier, but this is something that the judges will be looking for as far as their skating abilities.
Oh, what a
Very
fun little
great.
program. Great skate by Hazel Ridge.
And the team that we've got on the ice now is the Notre Dame Silhouettes. Oh, am I wrong on that one?
Yeah, we've actually got Harmony on the ice here from the Regina synchronized skating teams.
So Harmony is coached by Trisha Hines and Amy Ripplinger. Their age range is from 6 to 11, and they have 8 skaters today.
And it looks like they will be working off of the Trolls soundtrack, so some upbeat pieces as well as a break with some slower pieces. So you'll get to see some nice maybe changes of pace and choreography throughout. Regina's traveled quite a ways to be here today.
They
So
have.
these little ones, this is probably a pretty big adventure for them to come to another province and a bigger competition.
And Regina has a couple adult teams here, so I wonder if maybe these are some of the, girls of the adult skaters. But
Yeah, potentially.
I
some
would bet they
mums.
came together on a bus.
And actually, the coaches, Trisha and Amy, are both skating on the Regina adult teams today,
Okay.
too. So double duty as well. So lots of coaches doing that today, too, which is pretty cool.
There are a lot of Saskatchewan teams here.
There is a lot coming from Saskatoon, Tisdale, Regina. Yeah, just a wide variety.
Yeah, and for some of these levels, this is a qualifying event, so that's why it's Prairie Regionals. Manitoba and Saskatchewan will both be here, and they could qualify for national competition just for a couple of the levels that we'll mention later.
And here we go, Harmony. Wow, do those dresses sparkle. And we start with a nice intersection there.
And so as the day goes on, we'll see intersections get a lot more complicated. We'll see more than 2 lines doing one intersection. We'll see them doing backwards entries. We'll see them doing turns. So this is kind of the basic level, and then we'll see it go up from there.
A nice straight line here by Harmony. And transitioning into 2 lines there.
Into a circle right at the end by the goal crease.
And there's one of those changes in the music now. We're experiencing a slower tempo, so.
And Anna Kendrick again.
Oh, she's so popular this year.
I think she's just a favorite by the young girls, hey?
True. Young and old. And now we've split into 2 circles, so that's a unique variation that we haven't seen. 2 side-by-side circles yet in beginner.
Which is tough because you want to make sure that you don't get your circles too close to each other and run into each other.
But you don't want to be so far apart that you can never get back together.
For sure.
Here we go, another change in music, a little upbeat, a
Yes.
little dance to get us all going.
And they're in their block. So a block requires a minimum of 3 lines, and they've got 9 skaters, so they're in a block of 3 lines with 3 skaters in each line.
Oh, we had a little one fall down here, but that's part of synchro. She'll get up and get right back in, and that's quite all right. Can expect a few of those spills today. And there we go. She's back
Yes.
in, ready to go.
And that
Crowd
block-
supporting her.
Yeah, the block pivots around the corner and comes all the way back down again, so this is great ice coverage.
Cute
Lots
arms
of great
there.
arms. And so they have moved into their wheel element, which
And
is a
they're
3-spoke.
not attached in the middle, so that's also unique.
Yeah.
That we'll start seeing more and more now as we move up categories.
Yeah, it makes it tough to, kind of stay close enough together and go the same speed. So often holding on is easier, but they did a great job.
Great little skate by Harmony.
And now we have Notre Dame starting onto the ice.
Yes. So the Notre Dame silhouettes are from the Notre Dame Figure Skating Club, and they are coached by Amy Jackson. And a kind of unique spin on this, their music was chosen, it's Moana again. However, the girls requested it, so sometimes that's neat when a coach gives their skaters the opportunity to make that request for certain music. So
Yes, and Amy Jackson also coached the Carberry Beginner 2 team that we already saw. So again, you're going to see these coaches kind of pop back up again. So there's several people that are involved in the synchro community in Manitoba, and they really pull their weight in going to several different clubs to make sure that
Absolutely.
teams survive.
So these are cute little blue dresses, just like the ocean. So
Yep.
should put a fun spin on this program.
Yeah, you guessed it right when you said you thought Moana would be popular this year.
Yes. And so sometimes, right now, what you're seeing is the team waiting, the other team's having their scoring finished, and so this can be that nerve-wracking few moments as skaters are taking a deep breath, and little ones, you're more maybe looking for your mom or dad or grandma or grandpa in the crowd, but
Yeah.
as you get older, it gets a little more nerve-wracking during this moment.
And you'll see kind of these delays get a little bit longer as the judging gets a little more specific as the levels go up.
And here we are right into the circle element, rotating circle.
Lots of great speed. And a hand change.
And a change of skating direction.
Mm-hmm.
So all those little technical things are what the judges are looking for, the little intricacies that make each element a little more challenging.
Yes. And they seem to all know their steps and be doing very well, but you'll often find on these younger teams that you've got a few of, usually specifically the older skaters that kind of keep time, maybe call out steps in some of the harder parts where it's a little harder to keep time or a little more confusing, but they're all doing very great as a team. Look at the knee bend on these.
A very fast line. Lots of different variations of steps there.
It's always interesting to watch the coaches by the side. We just happen to be set up by them, but Amy's watching pretty intently, and you can tell she's kind of mouthing all the steps that she would maybe usually be telling them if she was on the ice with them.
So someone like Amy who's coaching multiple teams, that is so many steps in her head.
Yeah, you've been there, hey, Court?
I've been there, yeah, just remembering what step at what time, on what foot, what
and
direction.
then trying to step on the ice and perform your own program.
Yes, it's challenging, but these coaches do a fantastic job.
And we may see some of these skaters that are actually skating in another higher level, or potentially have even skated in the beginner 2 category already and are kind of double teaming. So some of these girls may have a lot on their plates today and have to go quickly run and take off their skates, change a dress, maybe change their hairstyle a little bit, and then hop back on the ice again.
Absolutely. So there's a really nice 3-spoke, really nice rotation and spacing between the various spokes out there.
Great program.
Another fun take on the Moana
Yes.
music.
We've got a replay from one of the earlier teams here, so just to show you kind of some of the elements. So here's a pass-through, and you see there with that difficulty where they continue holding on to hands, and then some girls do some drags through.
And here's one of the circle elements from earlier, and a move right into a 3-spoke. So as the day goes on, you'll get more and more familiar with these various shapes and what you can expect to
some
see.
of the terminology.
So our next team on the ice is Pembina Pizzazz from the Morden Figure Skating Club. And they're coached by Pam Parker, Brooklyn Parker, and Jordan Parker, so
Yeah,
Team
so-
Parker.
Yeah, Team Parker coaching this group. And this is our 5th and final team in the elementary category. Their ages are from 9 to 13. They practice for about 45 minutes every week. And they've got some sure cute dresses here.
Nice bright color. Pembina Pizzazz has actually been around since 1993, so
And
that's
do you
a
think
long
Pam
time.
has been coaching that whole time?
Possibly. Pam's been around since we've been around, so she's put together a ton of great programs.
Looks like she's maybe kind of trying to pass the torch to maybe her children, I think.
Yeah. Keep the legacy going. So this team has another event coming up later in the year, which will be the Crocus competition. And so this is just another stop on the competition circuit for them.
And so, these events that go around the province, usually a skating club that is involved in synchro kind of takes hold of the synchro competitions. They host them for their club and kind of, I guess, put in their time so that you go to other competitions and then you host them. So the Cirrus competition is actually being hosted by Skate Brandon, but in Cirrus, which was kind of just like an ice time issue and cost of ice. So Cirrus made more sense to have it there.
Nice.
Please welcome Pamela Pizzazz Elementary.
And the music that they're skating to is called I Want Candy, Lollipop, and Shout.
Oh, a fun little dance move there.
And so there's 11 skaters on this team, if I count right, which is probably one of the larger teams that we've seen so far today.
The more skaters, the more area they take up, and it just makes everything look that much bigger.
Oh, that was a very nice turn, and then another turn immediately.
Cute little point at the judges. So the judging panel is watching this group of skaters, and we always encourage young skaters to make eye contact with those judges, which can be really intimidating when you're little, and this group just kind of laid it onto them thick there, which was cute.
And a coach usually choreographs the program to be laid out so that the skaters are almost always facing the judges. So it's pretty important that when you walk into the ice, you're able to tell pretty quickly which side is the judge's side, and that there's not any mix-ups with which way your circle exits.
Just finish their block here. Into a nice circle. So something I just noticed about this team, when they got into their circle, they were unattached for a couple of steps and then attached. And so they have planned where they're going to be. It's not a panicked grab. They knew that their partners were going to be there, so there's that trust element, level of preparedness.
And that shape was great on that circle, and then they pretty flawlessly exited out in the right spot into what looks like they're going to set up to do an intersection. And with the mohawk kind of just as they're going through it.
This should get the crowd going.
Yep. Great spirals. And so those spirals would have been kind of a transition move for them. But again, shows their skating ability.
Well, that was a fun little variation in the circle or in the middle of that pinwheel.
Yes, and then transition into a two-spoke. And then with a circle and two lines outside of it. Wow. Seems like they're having a lot of fun too. Very good.
What a fun little program.
So that ends our elementary event, as we'll just kind of watch these girls skate towards the door and get off the ice. And then after that, it'll be time for another flood, and then we'll be returning with the Adult 1 competition. And so these replays here, we see the intersection. We just saw their spiral lines prior to this.
So as soon as you put a turn into an intersection, it just makes it that much more challenging because you don't have your eye on your spot the whole time then.
You've got to really think about it and make sure that you're getting through it at the right time and the right spot.
To the 2018 Prairie Regional Synchro Skating Championships on Shaw TV. Right now we are moving into the Adult 1 category.
Yeah, so we have two Adult 1 teams that'll be skating today, and then we'll be following it up with an open team and then an intermediate team before the next flood. So I would say this is the most high-level skating that we're going to see today will be during this flood.
And so we started with the beginners in the elementary, which had a little bit of a different judging system. So Heather, can you tell us a little bit more of how the judging will change for this group?
Sure. So previous to this, we only had judges that were judging, and then they were kind of basically just giving an overall rank to each team, and the options were gold, silver, bronze, and merit. And they would basically be several bullet points, so things like spacing, pushing, speed, unison, and then the judges would rank them on one of those categories. So they were kind of ranked against themselves rather than ranked against all of the rest of the teams. But now we've actually added on tech specialists, which is kind of a new thing to synchronized skating. So tech specialists will be verifying the movement, whether it's the ice coverage required for, say, something like a moving circle element, They'll also be evaluating turns, making sure that a rocker is a rocker, a Choctaw is a Choctaw, and then they have the option to upgrade or to downgrade, I guess, the events or the specific turns and movements that they're trying for. And then
And
we've
so a
also
good
got
example
judges.
of that is each wheel, for example, has different wheels. A wheel level 1, a wheel base, a wheel 2, a 3, right? And so that's what the technical specialist is
Yeah,
looking
exactly.
at.
So they're looking for, sometimes a moving element is required to move a certain amount. So they're looking for that. And then they're also looking for a certain step with sequences. So, perhaps like you can't have 3 back-to-back crosscuts without a turn in between them. And then they can kind of choose a step 1, 2, 3, or 4.
And then there's a judging panel, which is looking at grade of execution, or basically the quality of each of these elements that the technical specialist has called. And so when a wheel is designated a wheel 3, then the judges determine, is it a +1 value? Is it really good? Or was it 0 or -1? And kind of determine the quality.
Yes. So it's kind of like a 2-tier system of judging to get an overall score. So they will be marked a score for their full program.
So this team on the ice is the Hazel Ridge Highlights. This is the 3rd team now we've seen, coached by Jessica Watson.
And she skates on the team.
Also skating. How awesome is that? So there's lots of girls that we used to skate with on this team now. And the thing that they like to note in their bio is that many of these women have taken hiatuses from skating, developed careers, had families, and now they're just back challenging themselves, still in love with the sport and seeing what they can still do out on the ice, which so far looks really good.
And so this is the first set of teams that we're going to see. Everyone from here on for the rest of the day also skated yesterday. So yesterday they skated the exact same programs. Today's day 2. Today's skate will be worth 2/3 of their mark, and yesterday's skate is worth 1/3.
And so in the Adult 1 category, we have 7 elements. And right now we're watching the pivoting line element for Hazel Ridge.
And so you can see there are actually 2 parallel lines, which is classified as a line. And so they've moved from their line element into their moves element, which this move specifically we call their spiral. And so judges will be looking for the proper height of the free leg placement. And it's also got to be for a certain amount of time on each edge.
So you'll notice now what we're watching adults, the expression here is a lot more developed, and they're really getting into character.
Yes.
And the music.
We started to see a lot of pairs kind of elements starting to enter synchro.
This is the creative element, and so you can do a wide variety of things here, but basically you're trying to showcase the music and the various talents of your skaters. We have some beautiful spirals and pairs work, like Heather was saying, some unique dancing happening in the middle.
Yeah, so it's kind of like a swing theme right here, so you see all these pairs break up.
And Adult 1 can actually have 8 to 20 skaters on the ice. Their program is a max of 3 minutes and 40 seconds. And skaters must have reached the age of 18 as of July 1st. And like I was saying, most of these skaters here are mothers returning to the sport. So they, have been out for a little bit, but are back in and loving it.
And there are 16 on this team. And so they started their wheel and then transitioned around and are now going the other direction in their wheel.
Now they're starting their block element with a nice handhold position. Great choice of music.
Great extension.
Very soft, romantic feel.
And so their block is kind of transitioning as they go, and skaters are dipping out of one line and ducking into another one to make the lines match up perfectly. And so like we said earlier in the broadcast, we've only seen pass-throughs or intersections that were 2 lines, and here's where you start to see 4. So it's kind of what we would call a collapsing block pass-through, where you see a square initially, and then everyone kind of goes through, and then you see a block at the end again.
And a beautiful program by Hazel Ridge.
Yeah, very great.
So you'll notice just as we move through these categories, speed will increase, difficulty, you'll see more turns by the individual skater, as well as different shape formations from the teams. So yeah, there'll be a lot of variety as we
Yes.
move
You'll start
through.
to see turns and edges and things enter into the line elements, the circle elements, and everything.
So a replay here,
A
Heather.
replay. So this was at block passer. So it's the 4 lines at the end and 4 lines at the beginning that would collapse into kind of a block. It's difficult to find your spot. It's especially difficult in practices when people are missing.
And the funny thing is, in practice, you might have someone wearing a blue shirt, and so you're like, yeah, I'll look for the person with the blue shirt. And then all of a sudden you get to competition, and everyone's identical.
Yeah.
So you don't have those little markers. And we all wear the same hair and makeup, too.
Yeah.
So some teams choose to practice wearing identical outfits for that
Yep.
purpose so that you don't rely on individual markers like that.
Yep. So now on the ice, we see Wheat City Connection, which is a team based out of Skate Brandon. So Courtney and I actually have skated for this team previously as well. So we're, of course, cheering for them here, too.
And so they're coached by Tammy McKay. And the age range of this team is 17 to 36, so probably similar to that other group. There's some mums out here. There's probably some students and lots of people, really busy lives, but seem to find time to get together for some skating, which is great.
And so like we said before, this is day 2 of competition. So we've got the scores from yesterday. 2 teams in this level, and Wheat City Connection, who's currently on the ice right now, is leading by 5 or so points in this event. And then, of course, today will be worth double the score. So today is really the one that's the important skate.
Mm-hmm.
So they'll be looking to skate clean. And so when we say that, we mean no falls. You want to make it through all of your intersections, your circle, all of your transitions with no falls. That's kind of, the real big make or break one that you judge it on personally. But, of course, they'll be looking to travel their circles, their full amount, make sure that they're, fully attached on their wheels, things like that.
So a unique thing about this team is they have, for a long time, competed in the open category, and this is their first year moving to Adult 1, and so they've actually been able to expand the number of skaters on the ice. 16 is the max with open, and they actually are skating, I think, with 18 today.
Yeah. And so one of the things that prompted their move into the adult category was that adult always used to require that you be 19 in July 1st of the year that starts, but they actually, across Canada, changed that rule to have to just be 18, which meant they were allowed to include quite a few more skaters without excluding anyone.
It sounds like they do have 3 or so that are still underage, but choose to skate as spares and are hoping, in a year or 2 to be able to actually skate as full members, which is exciting. So now we see them in their wheel element. Really impressive when you get this many people doing a 2-spoke.
Yes.
Each spoke has 9 skaters. You can see they're filling the ice.
And so this will be the largest team, I think, that we see today as far as numbers of skaters. Lots of smiles as they go by us here. That's some familiar faces to us.
And there we see their
Great
intersection.
pass-through. And of course, they did a turn into it and came at each other from an angle. So that really increases the difficulty, and the judges will be rewarding them for that. You notice those handhold changes where they're not just at a standard shoulder hold. So they've got, they had their arms up from the forearm. So again, adds difficulty. Often it's a requirement that you change handholds a certain number of times in an element or in a program.
And so we're seeing their block right now here. Pivoting around. And right into their circle element.
Yes, so a larger circle outside of a smaller circle. They're both moving down the ice, so it's important that they move at the same rate.
They're traveling opposite directions, which is
yes.
something new we haven't seen yet.
And so specifically in the outer circle, they'll be looking to keep their spacing even, because you've got to have kind of a gap in there, but you don't want to have a larger gap in one side of the circle than in the other circle. And now they've transitioned into 2 circles. So they had 2 circles, a smaller circle and a larger circle, which then switched into 1 big circle into 2 smaller ones side by side.
So this is their pair element.
So kind of a pivoting spiral. And again, judges will be, choosing their grade of execution, which we call the GOE, based on things like skating ability, which will include leg height, balance, stability.
And when you have this many skaters, this element is probably the
Yes.
hardest, the line. So
Yes.
trying to keep a line.
And they are doing
pivoting.
great.
Yes, wonderful. Great speed on the ends
Yes.
there.
And so this is their pivoting line, which we saw pivot 90 degrees and then another 90 degrees. And then we see it break into 2 lines, which continue to pivot.
And now we're moving into the creative element. So here we should see a wide variety of skills being
And
displayed.
the creative is kind of a new element that just originated a couple years ago. It's kind of interesting because it's really not so much judged by the tech specialist. It kind of just almost requires a little bit of a check mark. And then the judges basically grade your creative element based on how appealing it looks to the eye and, you know, how contained you can keep it within an area, as well as how well you feature some of your skater strengths.
So that was a great skate by
Great skate.
Brandon. Nice to see them have a fun and exciting little skate out there, some waves as they go by.
Yeah. Oh, so here's a replay of their pass-through. So you see all of those turns. Often when you're doing turns through a pass-through, feet are often spread out and able to go kind of flying and catch each other. It happens, and then you usually on a pass-through like that land very hard on your butt, but not usually. I guess if anything goes wrong, it would be a pretty hard landing because it's a pretty high speed, but great pass-through by them.
So that concludes our Adult 1 category.
It is, yep. So we're moving into the open category, which would be the highest level. So this is a qualifying competition like we've kind of talked about. So teams here will be hoping to vie for a spot to attend nationals. So there are a couple different levels of nationals. So there's an adult national. So some of the adult teams would be qualifying for that. So we've seen the one adult level that just skated with 2 teams. And then at the very end of the day, we'll see a couple more adult teams. But the open will also be hoping to find their way to a spot to nationals.
And so open can have 12 to 16 skaters. They skate a 4-minute program. And skaters must have reached the age of 15 as of July 1st of this past year. And so within this program, there will be 9 different elements that they will be, I believe 9.
Yeah, I think it's 8. 8 elements, but they've got a couple
Yes,
groups
8.
of things. So they've got a group A, B, and C. So within those groups, they have a couple options where, for example, you can choose whether you want to do a line element or a rotating wheel element. You can choose between a pair element or a spin element. So in the pair element, we kind of saw that last one.
Right.
A spin would be when your entire team does a spin. So you would be very much judged on your unison in the spin, but also in skating ability. And then you can choose between a creative element, which we've seen a few of those, or a combined element, which is also kind of a new thing to synchronized skating, which would require you to do, say, a circle and a line at the same time, or maybe a circle and a pass-through at the same time. So it kind of leaves the options open rather than, you know, giving 8 things that you require. You're allowed to kind of flex your programs a little bit.
And so, as we were saying earlier, this group also will be judged, or their programs will be called by a technical panel as well as a judging panel. And so it's that 2-tiered system.
And so the panel, just a little bit of it, there are 2 people in charge of the technical, which is calling the actual elements and whether, you know, they qualify or not. And then we've got 5 people that are on the judging panel, which are kind of, you know, deciding that GOE like we've talked about, which is the grade of execution and how well the element is actually performed itself and how well the skaters are doing as far as actual ability, speed, things like that fall into there.
And so you can see up next we have the Saskatoon Silver Edges from Skate Saskatoon, and they're on the ice sort of in a team huddle. And as I was saying earlier, this is when nerves start to kick in. You've got this little bit of a break before your music comes on. You're getting a feel for the ice. And so this team's choosing to kind of use it as a moment to connect with each other before the music starts.
And this is the first year in the open category for the Saskatoon Silver Edges team, but the team has existed for a number of years. So they've maybe been like a pre-nov category or something like that. I don't think they look old enough that they would have been adult and have come down to open. But this is their first year competing as an open team. So, of course, it's nice to have some competition and have at least 2 teams in this event today.
Absolutely, and they are coached by Patricia Bobbert, and they age range, they're young, 17 to 25. So they practice 2 times a week, and they've already attended Calgary Rose Bowl, and they plan to also go to Regina Living Skies Invitational Competition.
Yes, and they've got kind of some hot top 40 kind of hits that they're going to be skating to. So you're going to see Confident, Beautiful, and Fighter. So Demi Lovato songs and a couple Christina Aguilera songs.
So
and
we
the crowd's
should
already
expect a
loving
lot
it.
of attitude.
Yeah.
So they're going to kick off their program here with a pivoting block.
And so you can see this block, they kind of increase in numbers as they went. There was one kind of feature skater almost in the front of it. And then they've changed formation and they're now in 3 lines. And that block kind of pivoted and then turned right around. It's always really hard to change your pivots because you have to go from being the fast end to all of a sudden being the slow end and vice versa. And it looks like they're going to do a similar intersection to the one that we just saw from Brandon, where they kind of come at each other from different ends of the ice. And this will be their line element, actually, before we do the intersection. Yes, and then this is an intersection we haven't seen yet that we refer to as a whip intersection, because just like it sounds, you can see that those fast ends are kind of whipped as they go through.
So a lot more expression from the skaters, a lot more artistic value in the open category. They really bring the showmanship here. We're going to move into the pairs element now. So again, it's that pivoting spiral.
Beautiful. And a change of music, and they get quite a bit softer.
And we're going to be looking at their traveling circle. So unattached, interweaving circles. So the outsides circles changing to the inside and vice versa.
And the difficulty in that is making sure you're in your correct pass-through spot to move through and become the outside circle or the inner circle.
Yeah, it's not just by luck that you end up. There's a specific spot you need to be going through, which is challenging as you're rotating and traveling.
And they transition out of that into their moves element. So you'll probably see a few different things going on here all at the same time.
So we see a spiral line.
And we see our spread eagle holds.
So we have seen a fall, and that does end up in a deduction, but if a skater can quickly get back in and finish the element, there is the opportunity to save that element.
Yes.
And so that happens at higher levels. The greater the difficulty, the more chances there are to catch your toe pick.
Unison is great. Arm moves are great.
So this is a
Spacing is
new
great.
element we haven't seen yet, and it's a no holds element, which is a no holds block. So they're intended to keep that block shape.
Yes.
So certain lines.
And no holds blocks have been around for a long time, but something we've seen them add recently are pivoting no hold blocks. So pivoting line is hard enough to do when you're holding on and maintain your space, and it's quite difficult to do when you're not holding on.
The no holds element really highlights the individual skater's abilities. So every skater needs to be on top of their own game. There's no blending in at that point. If you're off, you're off.
And I think they really have some great song choices in this program.
Absolutely.
Beautiful spins are featured here. Great program.
You can tell they really love the music, hey?
Yeah, yep.
Great skate by Saskatoon Silver Edge.
And the stands are kind of as full as we've seen them be today. So these were kind of the key events that we said. So everyone is here cheering and watching. And we see Ice Intrepid here just kind of getting ready to step on the ice. Megan Maxwell watching and giving them a nod of encouragement.
Here we're going to see that whip pass through here in the replay. And so the idea is that this whip comes around, but then you all end up going through at the same time. And so taking to the ice next is Ice Intrepid from the Hazel Ridge Skating Club. Heather and I both skated with Ice Intrepid when we were students at the University of Manitoba.
Where we met.
Yeah, this is where we met. So
let us hear, I guess.
A decade ago, but hey, let's not age ourselves. Ice Intrepid is coached by Megan Maxwell and Jessica Watson. And the average age on this team is around 22. So a lot of students, but also some non-students.
Yeah, maybe we shouldn't say their age range. A friend of ours might not like that.
So this team has already attended a competition in Toronto called Winterfest. So that's where they sort of kick off their competition season. They also are hoping to qualify for nationals in Oshawa, Ontario. And they've done their warm-up block here with really nice speed and grace.
Yeah, so something we're seeing here is speed. They've got kind of a little extra bounce to their step, kind of like a little bit of a hop. They're maybe not off beat, but off of the main beat every now and then, just to kind of add a little extra bounce to it. So now we'll see them kind of just skate on the ice, lots of knee bending, getting the nerves out right now, kind of scouting to make sure there's no sequins anyone's going to trip on, but practicing their twizzles, which are, kind of one of the harder steps to do.
So one of the fun facts here, Heather, is next season will be Ice Intrepid's 20th season, since it's being established in the fall of 1999. And so I think that calls for a reunion. What do you think?
I think we should have a party. And so Ice Intrepid is in the lead in this event as well today. And you can tell they're right into this theme.
So one thing you'll notice about this team, I don't know if you'll notice this on your TV, but they're quiet. So those toe picks on the front of the blades can be really noisy if you lean into them. And this team does everything they possibly can to eliminate that noise through knee bend and just being aware of the way that their body's positioned on the ice.
Yeah, sound, that, crunch of the toe picks is something that's kind of a little bit of an unofficial determination of skating ability. If you can maintain that speed and then slow that speed down without hitting toe picks, it's definitely an impressive thing to see.
So this is their line element.
And so with this music, you see lots of kind of hip swinging, which kind of throws your body off a little bit, but really adds to the drama of the program.
And we're gearing up for their intersection, which you see multiple turns.
Yes.
I think at least 3 rotations leading up to, going through, and coming out of that intersection.
And they're required to do turns prior to meeting. So they did several turns just to be safe. And it kind of went from upbeat to a little bit dark here in this.
So you'll notice a change in their expression.
And you can see now this pivoting block isn't just crosscuts or chassés. There's lots of steps and changes of directions and turns while they're doing it.
And this will be the big scene here, the moves element.
Yes, so kind of the climax of the program with this music. And so you saw the moves element where you saw the spiral start on an inside edge to an outside edge, which has to be held with your free leg up at a certain height. And then you saw the girls doing their own individual spirals as well. And stepping right into their spins.
So most teams have chosen a parallel element, and Ice Intrepid here has gone with the spins.
And so something important, you see them all kind of step into their spin at the same time in the same direction, as well as exiting that spin all the same way at the same time. Can make you a little bit dizzy.
And now we're going into the no holds, and this expression is killing me. Oh my gosh, I just got like goosebumps.
Yeah, I just laughed
there.
a little. I think they were singling us out.
They're giving us a little extra sass, as they would the judges, like we were saying earlier. So again, this is highlighting the individual skill. You'll see a lot of turns with this team in the no holds.
Look at these facial expressions.
Twizzles that we haven't really seen a lot of until now.
Triple twizzles.
Wow. Now we're going to go into the creative. So we're seeing everything from jumps to pass-throughs. Yeah,
like I said, the creative is a fun one because you can kind of really do whatever you want.
We have
it's kind of a
strong single skater here, doing a beautiful spin in the center.
And I think we're going to see the male skater featured a little bit here for the ending. Beautiful. Great skate.
Great skate by Intrepid.
And as we've seen lots of the other performances, they'll kind of thank both the crowd and the judges for being here today. And you can tell that these girls aren't done performing until they step right off the ice. So typically in a competition, we would actually see the adult one and the open be the later events in the day. But we've actually just got two girls walking up behind us onto the judging platform. So one of them is a judge and one of them is a tech specialist who are involved in an adult one and open team. So they've been placed earlier so that they can, complete everything that they need to do with their team that day and then move themselves onto the panel to be available for judging and teching the rest of the event today.
Yeah, like Heather was saying, so many people here play multiple roles, whether it's skater, coach, judge, tech specialist, all of those in one day potentially. So
parent and skater.
Yeah,
we've got a big range of people, but it's kind of families that you see that are running things together.
Yes. And so taking to the ice is the Thunder Bay Synchronized Skating Team from Thunder Bay, Ontario, and their coach is Kim Blake. These skaters range in age from 13 to 19, and their team was established just in 2016.
So yesterday they had a score of 24.24 points. They have no competitors, so it's just them in this event. So again, they'll just be hoping to beat yesterday's score.
And so their music's a fun little group here. We've got We Will Rock You and the Bossa Nova Mashup.
Yeah.
The next event is the Intermediate Synchro Free Program 2. First to skate.
And so this team is really just kind of in year 2 of establishment. So it says here in the notes that they're competing here, and that for the rest of the year they're really just doing a lot of ice shows back home, as well as have been invited to some ice shows at other clubs.
Nice.
It's great to get some awareness of the sport out there. And so typically when a team is deciding what level they would compete at, it's not actually based on the skill level of your team and what they're able to do, but it's more so based on the age ranges that you have to work with, especially in smaller communities. And so we just saw their spin element there, and now they'll move into a circle, which I think as required, they'll travel. It's a very fast circle.
Yeah, that definitely has a really fast rotating speed, so that means a lot more tension from skater to skater.
Now that travel is very gradual. You saw it kind of centered around the middle of the ice, which then moved down to have its kind of furthest point to the blue line and then moved right over the blue line.
We're doing a pivoting block here now.
And that was, just a 1-foot turn where we've seen a lot of 2-foot mohawk turns or 2-foot turns to get yourself from forwards to backwards. So, of course, adds a level of difficulty. Great speed as they move around from element to element.
And we've chosen backward spirals as part of the moves element.
And now they'll move into a whip intersection. Very good. And so you see that the end met at the very same time as the other end. Now that we have tech specialists on the panel, they'll also be able to replay some of the things if they need to replay to see that someone did a specific turn on the correct edge, or if maybe to verify that the traveling elements move far enough, they'll be able to pull up a replay of that.
So here we're seeing their 4-spoke wheel element with a change of direction and a change of handhold.
And again, we're seeing it not connected at the middle now, so they'll be working hard to keep their spacing at the proper distance. This will be a fun program to do at ice shows, especially if they happen to be skating at any hockey games or anything like that. I would think a hockey crowd would be pretty into this theme.
Yes, great music for the ice show circuit, that's for sure. And now they're preparing for their no holds. So this group will also have a block featuring the individual skating abilities as unattached turns and moves are done.
And this is fun music with kind of a mashup where you had both songs playing at the same time there.
Yeah.
Great music mixing.
And now this is the creative element, so should see lots of exciting things happening here.
So again, featuring, some of the strengths of some of the skaters on the team with those Ina Bowers, which are a pretty hard position to hold. Beautiful.
Oh, and a fun little ending there. Almost unexpected, it just pops up at you.
Yes. And so, of course, we're happy to have a lot of Manitoba teams here today, but quite a few that traveled in from Saskatchewan, and of course, these girls from Ontario.
Great skate by Thunder Bay. So here in the replay, we're seeing their pivoting block, and like Heather was saying before, that turn was just on one foot and really going off of one single push there to get them all the way through that pivot.
And here's their transition here, where they do a pass-through, which is kind of some bonus, and then this is their actual intersection, which is that whip. Timing was great on it.
Welcome back to the 2018 Prairie Regional Synchronized Skating Championships on Shaw TV. Right now we'll be moving into our pre-juvenile category.
Yeah, that's correct. So the team that's just taken the ice is called Shattered Ice, and they're from the Saskatoon Skating Club. So like we said, this is the pre-juvenile category. Their coach is Trish Bobbert, so we've seen her coaching another Saskatoon team. It says here in the notes that this is the first year for this team. So they probably have maybe done no competitions or, very few. So they're here, and the crowd has given them a warm welcome.
The age range of these athletes today is 8 to 11, and so a little bit of a younger group as we just came off the intermediate.
Yes.
So yeah, we're going back a little bit to some of the younger skaters here, and yeah, excited to see what's in store. Pre-juvenile typically has 8 to 16 skaters with a maximum music time of 2 minutes and 40 seconds. Skaters must not have reached the age of 12 as of July 1st this last year.
And they'll have 5 elements in this program today. So we'll see the pivoting block, a rotating element, which will be a circle, a line element, a rotating wheel, and an intersection. And it says that their music is Charlie Brown. And it kind of shows it by a lot of the inspiring lyrics that we're going to hear out of the music today.
Fun little dance party to get us started here.
Yes. And so we see them start into this wheel. So a 3-spoke wheel.
Unattached in the center, so trying to maintain equal space there, not get too far apart.
And so one thing that we read about the notes on this team is something that Courtney and I can relate to as well. But these girls didn't really know each other, and they certainly didn't know each other as a team before they started this year. So they've had a lot of really good memories and a lot of fun together. And so that wheel went from a 3-spoke into a 2-spoke. And now we see them kind of transition a little bit. So moving down the ice, showing off their skating ability. And something it also said in here was that every single one of them is a single skater.
Oh, so they're doing both disciplines, so lots of ice time for these skaters.
For sure.
Right into the intersection, you can see they picked up 1 foot and were gliding on 1 foot as they went through, so that's also a little bit more challenging. You can't change your trajectory as quickly if you're coming up on a hole that's not quite where it's supposed to be.
And reaching up high, so kind of a little bit of a, challenge in body positioning.
And this team's now doing their pivoting block.
Great spacing as they moved around kind of the tip of the circle and then back around.
And now they're in a circle here, so they're choosing the attached circle, and lots of speed here as they skate backwards in this circle.
And into 2 circles.
And this time choosing the unattached.
Mm-hmm.
And here we go, getting us into the music again.
Fun change of music there. The crowd is loving it.
And now they're going to wow us with their last element here, the line.
And they really look like they're working on finishing strong. Kind of some great mirror image weaving through there.
And what a great skate.
Great program.
This team plans to skate at a WHL hockey game as well this season.
Oh,
so
fun.
Great music for that. They'll sure
sure.
have that crowd entertained.
So in this event, there's 2 teams. The other team that will be stepping on the ice very shortly is the Nippon team, and the scores are very tight on this event. So going into this skate, it was 14.55 for Nippon, followed by Shattered Ice from Saskatoon with 14.18. So we'll see how it finishes.
Yeah, that's a really close, just tiny little points there that can be made up with, just a slight little improvement today from each team. So be fun to see how that one plays out.
And so stepping onto the ice and just kind of doing their first lap to get themselves comfortable, it's Little Ice Precise, which is based out of the Nippon Figure Skating Club.
And so they are coached by Cynthia Chartrand. And the skaters on this team range from age 9 to 11 years old.
Yeah, and they practice once a week for half an hour. And these are some fun and upbeat girls, which is why they're doing the program that they've chosen.
So 30 minutes, that is not a long time. I've been a coach, and to get anything accomplished in 30 minutes takes a very organized coach. So props to you, Cynthia. And it sounds like she ends every practice with a little bit of a synchro game that the girls really enjoy.
Fun. Yeah, and it can especially be tough if, girls are missing for certain reasons, like other sports or activities, or, they're out of the province or something like that. So practices can be pretty tough and pretty intense sometimes when you get everyone there in one place.
And this team's choosing to just do a little bit of a team huddle. You can see everyone sort of probably sharing some positive, inspirational words to each other, getting everyone excited, shaking those nerves out.
And Courtney and I were here yesterday watching the competition for day 1, and this was one of our favorite sets of music. So they're skating to Clap Snap, and it's pretty catchy and upbeat. We liked it quite a lot.
I do remember that from yesterday. And so you will start again to see these longer breaks, even with pre-juvenile, because we do have that technical panel as well as the judging panel, so that two-tiered system. So it takes a while to go through everything and make sure appropriate levels are called and appropriate values are assigned to everything.
Yeah, so like we talked about before, they could even be reviewing things and going back and looking at the videotape of some of these elements and turns and things that they've done already to make sure that they're calling it correctly, especially when you get down to this close of a score between two teams.
Absolutely.
So they're kind of starting with a little bit of a pairs kind of fun start.
Right into a line.
And you'll often see that a lot of people are doing their lines this way down the ice to show the judges how straight of a line they can be. Plus, it also lets them cover as much space as possible in a line. So they were one line, then they kind of split around and have come back around through their transition into their next element. But lots of speed and lots of pushing as they're going around the corner.
And they caught on there. Now they're entering into their wheel, which is a two-spoke.
So a wheel, and then they go out and come back around and meet up as another two-spoke wheel, but with different centers this time. And into their pivoting block that they'll take down towards the far end of the ice, pivot back around and bring up to show the judges. Great spacing.
Right into their circle element here. They're all really feeling that beat of this music.
Their speed is very nice. It's not too fast and uncontrolled that they're, kind of struggling to stay held together. So it was very well controlled. And then you see they've shown both forward skating as well as backward skating, and now have broken into two circles.
I'm trying my hardest not to sing along to this song right now.
I'm thankful you're not. And there's their intersection, which will be their last qualifying element, aside from just the marks that they get from transitions.
Finishing with a spin.
Very good. And those dresses are great.
Yeah.
It's nice to kind of have those color blockings, and you can really see the definition when people are, turned forwards to backwards.
Absolutely great little skate by the Nibois pre-juvenile team. And that actually concludes our pre-juvenile group.
So now we're moving on to the juvenile level. And we'll just look at this replay before we introduce that. So here's that circle. You can see the shape. There's no kind of like oval or oblong shape and no breaks in that circle. They do their little spin back in and the same thing, keeping that shape as a perfect circle. Okay, so the juvenile team, again, we're at 8 to 16 skaters, which has been pretty standard today aside from the adult teams. Music is 3 minutes and 10 seconds. Skaters must not be 15 by July 1st this past summer. And they must, 75% of the team must have already been the age of 13. So basically you're looking at an age range of girls who are mostly 13 to 15 with the possibility of just a couple of them being a little bit younger than that. 6 elements are required in this program, and I'll let Courtney tell you a little bit about them.
So the 6 required elements will be a pivoting element in the form of a block, a traveling element in the form of a circle, a rotating wheel, an intersection with a point of intersection. So that means some sort of turn at, I believe, at the point of intersection, a moves element, and a no-hold step sequence.
And so we're going to see 3 different teams represented in this juvenile category. The one that's on the ice right now is Rhythmic Edge. They're from the Prairie Edge School of Skating, which is located in Saskatchewan. Then we're going to see Gravity, which is based in Killarney, and then Ice Frenzy from Tisdale.
Yeah, so on the ice right now is Rhythmic Edge, and their coach is Naomi Rigetti. They have skaters ranging in age from 11 to 15, and they actually practice twice a week.
Yeah, so 11 to 15, like you said, twice a week. You know, we may have some girls that are going up or down levels on this team, but they'll be here and ready to perform for us.
Kind of a retro spin here, skating to Gloria. My mom was here watching yesterday. She really loved these dresses, took her back to her prime.
She did really like them. She liked the shape of them and the design of them, the colors of them. Your mom's seen a lot of skating dresses over the years.
Yes, she has. And here we're seeing their wheel, which is a 3-spoke with a different handhold there, kind of elbow to elbow.
And then a transition into a 2-spoke. So the goal in the 2-spoke is you want those lines to be perfectly even with each other, kind of like these lines that we've been talking about that go down the ice. The speed is important. You want to make sure, again, like we've kind of talked about, those pivots in the middle aren't going too fast, but they're still able to maintain their specific steps, as well as the people on the outside also able to do the steps. So tough to do the steps when you're going too fast or too slow.
And there's our first intersection with a nice turn through that.
Yes, and they've chosen kind of a difficult form of an intersection with that parallel entry. Yeah, and it's probably hard to pick up the detail a little bit, but these girls even have matching earrings. Their hair is matching. Their scrunchies are matching. Everything to the T is matching, and there's quite a bit of time that goes into everyone getting ready and getting makeup done and doing off ices before we even actually see them hit the ice.
This is where we acknowledge the skating moms and the managers who look after all those details.
Sure.
And then once you're older, your teammates end up being the managers and stuff like that on the adult teams.
Yep.
But there are a ton of moms and guardians and caregivers who put a lot of time and money into getting these skaters looking this good.
And so this is their circle that they've kind of just gotten into, and now we'll see them start to travel it. And so this is music that was actually my first skating program, was this, Dirty Dancing.
Brings back some good memories for you.
For sure. So now you see this circle break out into a no-hold circle, and you see them maintaining all of their space very well between each other. Beautiful spirals. And now they're into their no holds.
This is one of the youngest groups that are doing no holds, and so the challenge here is staying lined up while focusing on your own individual steps.
Takes a lot of concentration and a lot of practice in making sure that you're all able to push to the same ability.
And you're using your peripheral vision as you're trying to focus on timing and turning to make sure that you're lined up with your teammates.
Very fun.
Yeah, what a great little skate by Rhythmic Edge.
And so as far as what we had going into this, Gravity, which is from Killarney, was in the lead, followed by Ice Frenzy, and then Rhythmic Edge, which is the team that we just saw skating.
And here we can see in the replay just that 3-spoke here where they've got those interlocking arms and some unique footwork happening. So lots of fun there.
Sure, and we'll maybe just cut to some scores from some of the other teams that we've seen. So in order of how we saw them, the Adult 1 teams, we had 2 teams in that level, and Wheat City Connection has won that category with a score of 57.43 points. And very close behind them was Hazel Ridge Highlights with a score of 55.22. Followed by that, we saw the Open Division. So in that level, we have Ice Intrepid that won that division with 89.55 points, followed by the Saskatoon Silver Edges out of Saskatoon with 65.49 points. And then the point score is in for the Thunder Bay Synchronized Skating Club, and they've got 39.52 points. They, of course, have no one to compete against, but they'll take that score home, and they'll work on either doing better this year if they have another competition, or they'll be using that score towards next year, and they'll know what they want to beat. So great score for them as well.
Wonderful. Thanks for that update, Heather. So on the ice right now, we have Gravity from the Killarney Figure Skating Club, and they are coached by Kayla Taylor. And this team ranges in age from 10 to 13. They spend about an hour off ice each week, as well as an hour and a half on ice. And so we haven't touched on that, but lots of teams actually practice their programs off ice, really getting the steps and arms and head movements solidified before even getting on the ice to then really put that to work. So
yeah, and so this year is the first year that this team has been a juvenile team. So it's certainly, Gravity has been around as a team for many years, but this is a brand new team. And the soundtrack that they'll be skating to is The Wiz.
we're going to start here with the traveling circle. So you'll see the circle move gradually across the ice. And we'll note that the tech panel is actually watching to see if it moves a specific distance. So it's not just an obscure travel. They actually need to reach a certain distance to have that called.
So we've talked about some competitions that are upcoming. So we talked about the one in Souris later on in March. But there's also a competition that's hosted in Regina, and this team will be attending that competition. So it's always nice as a team to go to several competitions and kind of make your year worthwhile, and all the time that you put into it, the energy, the costs that you put in for dresses and coaching and ice fees. So it's nice to compete as many times as you can and show your program as much as you possibly can.
Absolutely. So we've just seen their block here, and it was a nice pivoting block there. And now we're going to transition into the moves element. So spirals are on the agenda right now.
Well done.
Some great extension there, some beautiful spirals.
And it was held for a nice amount of time. The judges had plenty of time to, evaluate it and take a good look at them. And we're going to see them move here into their intersection. And so a reverse entry that you see, so it's a little more blind than some of those forward entries that we've seen earlier on in the day.
And then a nice turn at the point of intersection there.
And their final, not the final element, this is their fifth element, which is their wheel element. So as we've seen many of these, two spokes, because it just has two spokes.
Change of direction.
Two spokes are hard because they're so long and you end up going very fast at the end. Now they're in a parallel, which is hard because you need to keep that center in the center for both lines. Plus you need to stay parallel to each other. 4 spokes and 3 spokes can be hard for their own reasons and keeping them spaced properly. So it's really, sometimes what works for your team. Sometimes you're also even trying to change based on what you did last year in a program and try something new so that everyone has a chance to learn something.
And now this team is doing their no holds block, keeping good lines with each other while working on their own individual steps. So unison's really important here. When you're unattached, it's all about the specific timing that your coach has given you for each step. And that no holds change direction multiple times. Really, really good job on that.
Great ending.
Yeah, great little program by Gravity.
And so they're making their way off the ice. And again, like you see, the program is not done until you step off the ice. They're still
Showmanship
performing.
continues. And this is a replay of their circle.
And in that, you can also see that whole judging panel behind that. So all of these people are here that are, kind of here on their own time and really involved and knowledge in the sport and have put a lot of time into being able to be here because it requires a lot of education to even qualify for competitions.
Absolutely. Figure skating and synchronized skating are sports run off of volunteerism. There's a ton of people putting hours into the setup of this event, and then as well as the coaching, the technical panel, the judging. Yeah, just volunteerism is huge within Skate Canada and Skate Manitoba.
Yeah, and so our final juvenile team before the flood will be Ice Frenzy. They're from Skate Tisdale, so of course based out of Saskatchewan, and they've come quite a ways to get here today. They're coached by Jolene Bowditch. The age range on this team is 10 to 13, and they practice a half hour a week, and then they have an extra 1 hour practice once a month.
So they have some unique music. I'm not even sure if I've heard of it before, but I'm sure it might sound familiar once it's on. Shooby-Doo and the Boogie Bumper. Sounds like a good time to me.
For sure. And so this team doesn't have any upcoming competitions that they'll be attending, but they do plan on doing some exhibition skates. And you see them all out here kind of getting comfortable with their skates and their knees and, making sure that they're ready.
Yeah, so while the other teams they're being judged and being reviewed, skaters have the opportunity to keep their legs warm here and get used to the ice, take a few minutes to review maybe some steps, and be ready to go when it's showtime.
Yep. This is also nice to kind of keep yourself distracted, because if you end up kind of standing around the boards and looking up and seeing all of these people here that are watching you or watching the judges and then feeling a little more pressure, sometimes it's kind of just easy to keep your mind distracted and not let those nerves kick in.
Absolutely. These are great dresses. A fuller skirt on them with a nice little collar there.
Yep. Some contrast in colors. It's great. Yeah, and we kind of went through scores before, and we're ranging from 15.81 points in this division to 20.46. So again, things are really close. And like we said earlier, before, today's score is worth 2/3 of the total competition. Yesterday was worth 1/3. So today is important that everyone still has a very clean skate, no falls. All of your elements are able to get called to the best of the ability. It looks like they're getting pretty close to ready. So as soon as we hear that music cut right now, then we know they'll be kind of ready.
Last few minutes here of team building in that circle. Taking some deep breaths.
I would expect they were instructed to keep their feet moving.
Yes.
You
Bend
don't
those
see any
knees.
feet standing still. It's also important to kind of keep yourself warm at this time because it's sure cold out here.
Our final team in the Juvenile Synchro Group Program 2, representing Skate Tisdale, please welcome Ice Frenzy.
So here we are with Ice Frenzy.
Yep. Yeah, those skirts make that look great, hey?
Yeah, totally. Very fitting with this theme. And this is going to be their traveling circle here.
Great speed. And great shape as they move that. Sometimes moving a circle makes it really hard to actually keep a circle, and you really get kind of an oval.
Oh. So a little bit of a challenge there, but got her back up and she's in, ready to go.
And now we've moved into our pivoting block, so you saw it kind of start straight down the ice and then pivot around right up to the judges, and we're going to see it pivot again right here. Great pivoting block.
Yes. And they've chosen the backward spiral for their moves element.
And from the moves element, they go into a wheel. So it's a 3-spoke, and it's unattached in the middle so far. And then they've changed into a 2-spoke, which is also open. So important to make sure that your wheel doesn't get too far apart. Otherwise, there could be some deductions from the judges.
And now they're preparing for their intersection, building up lots of speed going into this.
And they've done a really good job of covering all of the edges of the ice. Like that traveling or that pivoting block moved all the way from the end down to the other end and back around.
Lots of highlights in this music too, for the team to kind of hit those different beats with a variety of moves or steps.
Yes, lots of opportunity for kind of like arm movements and head movements and highlighting different beats. And so that was their no holds block, and now we see them move into a circle. And it looks like that's how they're gonna finish, is in a circle.
Fun little pair dance.
Very well done.
What a fun little program. And so that concludes our juvenile category. Yeah. So skaters will head off the ice here in what's the hug and cheer, I believe is what it's
Cheer
called.
on their friends. And so in the replay here, we're seeing this wheel. So this was the 2-spoke wheel. They started as a 3-spoke, then went to a 2-spoke.
Prairie Regional Synchronized Skating Championships. The officials for our next event, the Pre-Novice Synchro Free Program 2, are Chelsea Schaefer, Controller, Megan Maxwell, Technical Specialist, Nicole Petrie, Assistant Technical Specialist.
And we're back here at the 2018 Prairie Regional Skating Competition, brought to you by Shaw TV. And first up will be the first half of the pre-nov event today. So there are 7 pre-novice teams from throughout Saskatchewan and Manitoba here to show their programs this afternoon.
And so the first team we will be seeing here is the Hazel Ridge Highlights from the Hazel Ridge Skating Club, coached by Jessica Watson. So the pre-novice category, their teams can be 8 to 16 skaters with a maximum music time of 3 minutes and 10 seconds. Skaters must have reached the age of 12 as of July 1st this last year, but not have reached the age of 18 as of July 1st this last year. So your age range will be somewhere in there. This team, skaters are aged 12 to 16.
Yeah, so we're going to see 7 elements from each of the teams today in their allotted time. So we start out with the creative element for this Hazel Ridge team. We often see a creative fall either at the very end of the program or at the very beginning.
And so they're skating to Down the Road, Wake Me Up, and Run Boy Run.
And so we're on day 2 of this event, and the scores again are very close, ranging from 21.12 points to 27.86 teams, 6 points over 7 teams.
Wow, that's very tight with that many teams. So right now we're seeing their no holds block element. So we're trying to keep even spacing between the skaters while doing all our individual steps and turns.
And so in the pre-novice event, 8 to 16 skaters are required, but we actually see only 7 skaters on this team. It says 8 on the list. However, maybe there was an injury or something kind of unforeseen, and the team's basically gotten permission to skate with 7 anyways.
Okay. So there we just saw their intersection.
And that was the first time we've seen an intersection like that, which were two lines at a 90-degree angle rather than facing each other front on or even backwards. But the first time we saw kind of a different pass-through done by two lines.
And now we see the traveling circle done in a no-holds variation. A skater there with a quick fall, which is a deduction. However, she got up nice and quick and was able to transition into the next next
And
element.
now we see them, that next element is the traveling block, the pivoting block. So you see those three lines which are required. So they have several pivots as they pivot around the end and then did that little change of pivot end right there in it.
This sport is predominantly female dominated. However, this team actually has 2 male skaters, and we're seeing more and more males participate in
Yeah, quite a
synchro
few
skating.
males today. And of course, one of the goals when having male figure skaters is to have them still continue to blend in. So, synchronized skating in general, you'll see everyone typically with the same hair, the same, everything, same makeup. But you've also got to allow those males to be male figure skaters, but yet still fit into the group. So even on that note, a lot of work goes into picking costumes or outfits that allow, not just a fancy dress, because of course the boys aren't going to be wearing a dress.
So there we just saw the move element with some Ina Bowers and some spirals. And a really strong end to that program.
For sure.
Great skate by Hazel Ridge.
So that was team 1 of the pre-novice event, and of course 6 more teams to go. So this event is actually going to be broken up by a flood in between, just because there are so many, and the ice needs to be refreshed so that everyone has relatively clear, clean ice with not too many tracks already on it to skate on it.
And so here we're in the
pivoting block, the beginning
pivoting
of it.
block. There we go, Heather. Thank you.
And then the circle that we see, so a no-hold circle. And then, of course, it was also traveling down the ice kind of right in front of us.
And here's those Ina Bowers.
Yes, great. Ina Bowers are a tough position. We've already seen a few today, but not a whole lot.
So pre-novice has a variety of elements. Some of them are the pivoting element in the form of a block, traveling element in the form of a circle, an intersection with a point of intersection, a movement, a no-hold step sequence, and then there's a couple where you get some choice. So we might see some variation in elements today too, which is nice.
So the team that you're seeing take the ice and do their warm-up block right now, they're called Slick Ice. They're based out of Saskatoon. Trish Bobert is their coach. There are 10 skaters on this team, and they range in age from 12 to 16. They practice twice a week, and if you haven't already guessed, their theme is Celtic bass, and they will be skating to the song Hold My Heart.
They've already been to Calgary Rose Bowl, and they also plan to go to Regina Living Sky Synchro competition. So they're all over Western Canada this year.
Yeah.
It's kind of fun.
Yep.
Those team trips always bring your teammates a lot closer together. This is where the real friendships are formed.
A lot of memories can be made on a bus.
Yes, absolutely.
Lots of fun games to pass the time.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of movies, quite frequently Pitch Perfect.
Catchphrase, the game, hey? A lot of Saskatoon fans in the crowd today, hearing some noisemakers and some shout-outs.
So going into today's skate, this team is ranked 4th out of 7, so they are right in the middle, and they'll be hoping to, of course, move up. But the scores are so tight that it's kind of really anyone's game at this point. Lots of details on these dresses. The gold is very bold. It's a nice contrast with the black behind it. And the green, of course, is very fitting to the theme.
Absolutely. And when you're designing these dresses, you have to remember that they're on bright white ice, and that most people are far, far away from them. So some of the designs, when you're up close, you're like, whoa, that's so bright. But then out on the ice, they're just showing up. So
that also kind of relates to the makeup. If you were up close to someone, you would think, whoa, that's a lot of makeup. But from the stands, you can hardly see it at all.
Absolutely. A lot of these skaters will even be wearing fake eyelashes to accentuate their eyes, which the eyes do a lot to help bring across a theme, whether it's excitement or dark and scary or whatever. So,
yeah, facial expressions play a lot in it, whether it's, you know, kind of a frown or like a chin down, or whether chins are up and you're happy and your teeth are out.
Right. So here we go for slick ice.
Lots of applause for them. I think Saskatchewan must be all sitting together up there cheering. And so another program that begins with the creative element is being the very first featured element. And a beautiful sit spin featured right in front of the judges.
Again, with some spread eagles.
Yes.
All sorts of things going on there.
Beautiful.
Really grasp the eye there.
And they'll move into their circle element, which at this level is required to be traveling.
So they have one attached circle, one unattached circle, both traveling and rotating in the same direction.
And so they've moved that circle right from center ice all the way down to the far third of the ice. And this will be their moves element. So you see those spirals, great positions on all of these girls with those spirals, with that free leg, you know, significantly above their hip level.
We'll move into the pivoting block here, and so lining up nice and close.
And you see they all step forward on the exact same beat. There's no question at all in whether they know the steps. Great spacing maintained throughout that element.
And that block used the full ice. So again, as we move up in categories, we're going to see these elements cover a lot more space and be done with a lot more speed.
And here's the first time we've seen a 3-line collapsing intersection. Done very well.
So the goal is to go in like a triangle and come out like a triangle.
That's exactly right.
And now we're into the no holds element, where we're going to start seeing a little bit more footwork as well in the no holds. So what I mean by that is certain turns like mohawks, 3 turns, potentially some other turns in there as well.
And a change of placement within that block, and then a pivot through that block. Very good. And they're going to move along the boards here to the end, where they're going to form into a line to do their line element.
Lots of facial expression from this team. Making sure to have a look at the judges when they went by.
Very well done.
Yeah, fun little program.
Yeah, and really like matching of a theme. I think it's, you know, quite obvious what they were trying to display as a message from that.
Absolutely. They seem happy with that skate as they leave the ice here. Lots of smiles.
Yep.
Well worth the trip from Saskatoon.
For sure.
So here on the replay, we're seeing just their beginning here. That creative element where there's so many different things happening that can catch the eye.
And this is a circle, and you can already see how much ice it's covered in that pivot very quickly.
Very well controlled. Traveled very far in a very short period of time.
So the team that you're seeing now in the blue dresses take the ice are the Notre Dame Silhouettes, of course, from the Notre Dame Figure Skating Club in Manitoba. The Silhouettes are coached by Amy Jackson, who we've seen pop up a few times through a few different clubs, as she's a notable coach in the province. The age range of these skaters is 12 to 17, and there were 12 skaters on the team. They practice twice a week.
So the theme of this program is really the inspiration to live each moment in life to its fullest. So I think you're going to see a lot of passion through this program, and the idea of showing determination and those types of things.
And the song is I Lived, which is a song that probably a lot of people will recognize. Beautiful dresses. They're almost like a Cinderella-like kind of dress.
Yeah, they do have that Cinderella vibe to them. Very gorgeous and elegant. So this team will also be competing at Crocus Invitational, which is in Souris later this season.
And they've also already competed at sectionals this year. So team members from this team range from a few different communities in basically central southern Manitoba. Basically, when you're at these levels, you're looking for a specific number of skaters that fall within a specific age range. So often in smaller communities, you kind of need to stretch out and try and pull in from a few communities. So members from this team are from Swan Lake, Treeherne, Notre Dame, and Bruxelles.
They're taking advantage of this time right now where the judging panel and technical panel are just reviewing the previous team's scores to get a feel for the ice, get those knees warmed up and ankles warmed up, just really get prepared for showtime.
And so the panel, of course, is, maybe just kind of finishing up their analysis. And, when we hear that music cut out, that usually means the technical panel is ready to start focusing on a brand new program. So they'll just kind of stay here and stay warm and stay a little distracted and, have their final moments as a team to have a little pep talk.
Next to state, representing Notre Dame Figure Skating Club, please welcome Silhouette.
And here we are with the Silhouettes. They're going to begin with their creative element. Beautiful spins to really capture the eye.
And a couple of pinwheels to kind of highlight it. Beautiful. These are just such elegant dresses. And you can see that they've quickly transformed themselves into a circle.
And we'll see the circle travel here across the ice. Starting to make its move now.
Yes, strong holds. Everyone's really got a hold of their neighbor to make sure no one goes flying out on this. And the moves, so you're seeing Ina Bowers as well as spirals.
Beautiful.
So spirals in a line and Ina Bowers in partners.
Now we're going into the pivoting block here.
And I think we're going to see another triangle pass-through. Often the pass-throughs are kind of set up based on how many members of your team has and what kind of makes an even divisible number. Often someone still has a longer line and you've got to be the outsides of the pass-through. But it, is almost impossible to do, say, a square box pass-through with a smaller number of members.
Right. And now we're into the rotating wheel, and this is in the shape of a 3-spoke.
Yeah, with a nice even amount of space in between all 3 lines.
And unique handholds throughout this whole wheel, which is really nice to
Yes.
see.
And then a drop and then back up again.
Maintaining really nice spacing in that center as well.
It's great. And into their no holds. So you'll see that you're looking for, 4 specific lines that stay lined up as you move through the no holds. They'll probably pivot around here. And you want to be able to see that, perfect kind of square little dot shape along the whole thing. Very
And
nice.
a very nice soft ending to that program. Great skate by the Silhouettes.
Very great.
Definitely true to the theme, hey?
Yes.
Those skaters seem happy with that skate as they leave the ice. Here's a clip from that creative element we see here. And so those little pinwheels going as well with the spins. This was probably one of their stronger elements here, this circle.
For
was
sure.
Really beautiful. Great shape and started to get some travel going there. A nice pivoting block here in the replay as well. So you can see them change pivots there.
So now taking the ice is Ice Fever. They're based out of Tisdale, Saskatchewan. Their coach is Jolene Bowditch. This team ranges in age from 14 to 18, and there are 12 of them. They practice an hour and a half a week, and then they have an extra hour practice once a month.
So they are skating to 2 songs. One's called Rise, and the other is Nightmare. And didn't we skate to
We did.
Nightmare at one point?
Yeah. Again,
was-
not to date ourselves. Let's not talk about years.
We won't say what year that was. But we both remember it and love that music. So
Yes.
that'll bring back some
That'll be
special
near the
memories
end.
for us today.
Yeah.
4 of the skaters from this team will actually be graduating from high school this year. So their final sort of hurrah with this team possibly.
Yeah.
Maybe moving on to other teams or who knows. But
And so I think these are maybe my favorite dresses of the day. They're beautiful.
Yeah.
And then we have a little note on that. They chose the dresses because they thought it suited the music. The red symbolizes the beating heart, which you'll hear in the one piece of the music, and the black symbolizes the darkness. So you'll kind of see this theme as we go through the music.
And this is their only competition this year. So other than this, they're just doing exhibition performances. So that could be ice shows, hockey games, all sorts of things.
And so in these programs, basically before they start, you can see them kind of taking the ice and getting used to the crowd and the group. We just saw an axel, and I think we're going to see some more axles at the beginning of this. So the thing is to do things that are, fairly difficult to really show yourself off, but not too difficult that you might have an issue performing them.
Right. And you can hear that heartbeat.
Mm-hmm.
We're beginning with the creative element.
And there are your axles coming right at each other. The crowd loved it.
The axle is not an easy jump, folks. So something gutsy to really put into a synchro program.
I think there must be a lot of very strong individual skaters on this team.
Yes.
So they transition out of their creative straight into a wheel, which is a 2-spoke, and this is the first time we've seen what we call a basket weave hold, which puts you kind of a little bit closer to each other and a little bit more risk that you might catch yourself on your neighbor's blades. And then to kind of like, just a one-arm, kind of a teacup hold, we've called this one before. So nice to see several different holds right off the bat, and a wheel is a good place to do several holds.
Absolutely.
And you can see their facial expression all matches. They're kind of a, stiff face right now, where I guess, darkness is what they're displaying here.
A lot of intensity in their
Yeah.
eyes. So this is their pivoting block.
Great unison. Lots of arm movements. And into their spirals for their moves element. Beautiful
And a
height
change
on
of
some
edge
legs.
on those spirals. We've had a little bit of a stumble there on the one spiral, but we'll hopefully see the skater get back into
Spirals in
formation.
a line are very tough. And there's the collapsing box pass-through that we see. And here's this music that we're familiar with.
Good memories. We also did a no holds block to this,
Yes.
just saying.
And they're no holds with a lot of very difficult footwork turns.
Yes.
Where you can really, as a tech or a judge, watch to see who puts a foot down when they shouldn't put a foot down, or if someone's changing an edge to kind of cheat the turn. But they're doing great as they work through it.
Now they're going to do a traveling circle here, which is building up energy as the music is.
And they've had really great speed throughout this program. Very great.
Great skate by Ice Fever. So they'll be happy with that performance there. Skaters coming off the ice. And so now we will actually, we're not completely done the pre-novice category, but we will be taking a break for a flood here after these replays. So this is, there were those axle jumps you just saw, as well as going into the pinwheel here with one of their teacup hand holds, hand to elbow, and that powerful circle they had to end their program.
Next to skate in the pre-novice synchro free program 2, representing Morden Figure Skating Club, Pamela. Please welcome Pamela Pizzazz pre-novice.
Welcome back to the 2018 Prairie Regional Synchronized Skating Championships on Shaw TV. Right now we're tuning back into the pre-novice category. So this is the remaining 3 teams in this division that we'll be watching. And the team on the ice right now is Pemina Pizzazz from the Morden Figure Skating Club.
Yeah, and Pemina Pizzazz is actually going into today's skate in first place. So they are looking to maintain their lead, hoping to earn themselves a gold medal.
Nice, and this team's coached by Pam, Brooklyn, and Jordan Parker. Skaters on this team.
Range in age from age 12 to 16. Is that the part you're looking for?
Yeah.
And the music they're skating to today is Cool Cat in Town, and a very popular synchronized skating synchronized skating music piece is Diamonds Are a Girl's Best Friend. And we've talked a little bit about Pemina Pizzazz already, which is coached by Pam Parker as well as Brooklyn and Jordan Parker. So the Parkers are heavily involved in the sport with the Pemina Pizzazz teams. And so they started with their circle into their pivoting block, and it looks now like they're ready to set up for their intersection element. Backwards entry, and you see them start those turns, which really add to the difficulty of that point of intersection. They started those turns well before reaching their spots, and they need to continue turning even after they've already gone through their spots.
So So they're starting off this line element in 2 parallel lines.
A little bit of a change of spots. And now we'll likely see them move into 1 line. And using the different axis of the ice this time versus what we've often seen other lines doing.
A lot of speed from this team as they move across the ice. Right into their no-holds element. So a nice pivot in their no-holds block. Trying to maintain that shape while they pivot.
And they have a lead of about 1.5 points that they'll be trying to protect and even grow as they move through the end of this program. So we've talked about the importance of clean skates and making sure that you're focused and ready and, you know, not too nervous that anything happens, but they'll be in the zone for sure right now.
Absolutely. Now we're in that creative where we're seeing a really cool spin in the center of the
Beautiful.
ice. Followed by some hydro blades.
And of course, they all kind of like match the beats and the highlights of the music.
Yeah, this music offers a lot of opportunity to showcase different body movements or steps right to the different beats.
And we saw more spins with the circle on the inside. Lots of spins in this creative movement.
Must be a lot of strong single skaters
For
on this
sure.
team.
Beautiful.
Oh, what a fun program.
And so they'll make their way off the ice and they'll be standing kind of over here beside us. And I guess we'll be waiting on their score. And, you know, they'll be hoping to beat yesterday's score.
It's a tough spot going in as the #1 team in a flight, especially this large. It's can be a little extra pressure wanting to maintain that spot where you are. And
For sure.
Yeah. But it seemed to be no problem for them. This is their circle element here in the replay. And so it's unattached. You can see it's really quick. And in preparation here for their intersection, going in backwards. So not a lot of sight lines when you're trying to see where you're going.
Yep. And then this is the ending of their creative right here at the end. So while we wait on their scores and the next team gets ready to take the ice, we've got some results that are in. So the juvenile competition, the results have come in. There were 3 teams in that event, and the gold medal team of that event will be Gravity, which is based out of Killarney, and they had 34.4 points, followed by Ice Frenzy from Tisdale with 26.07 points, and then Rhythmic Edge from Prairie Edge School of Skating, which is exactly 1 point below the second place team at 25.07 points.
So fairly close there between second and third, hey?
Yeah, very close.
So this next team on the ice is Ice Precise from the Nipawa Figure Skating Club, and Cynthia Chartrand is their coach. This team ranges in age from 12 to 16, and these girls practice once a week for an hour together.
Yep, and we've kind of seen some dresses that are a little bit similar to this. This is the second set of red and black dresses we've seen worn with black tights, and the colors and the contrast is very nice in them. But these are beautiful dresses as well. They're going to be starting to the song Start a War, which will probably be a pretty familiar song to a lot of people when it starts out. And it said basically they chose these dresses for the intensity, the contrast of the colors that are kind of like a little bit of a warlike style.
So we can probably anticipate some more intense facial expressions throughout. Probably not a lot of smiles.
Yeah, it'll probably be pretty serious. This team goes into the competition in 3rd place, and they are just a little bit more than 2 points behind the leaders, Pamela Pizzazz. So they'll be also looking for a nice clean skate and leave it all out here tonight.
They're really utilizing this time while the judging's occurring to get familiar with the ice and get comfortable. Getting to have some last-minute words of positivity for each other out there. Keep the nerves light.
Yeah, important to just have fun and keep those nerves down. And black tights are pretty common this year and the last few years. Especially like with a dress like this, black tights look really nice.
Next two skates, representing the Nippewa Figure Skating Club, please welcome Ice Precise.
And here we go. We're ready for Ice Precise.
So 8 members on this team, which is the minimum required for the pre-novice category. I really like this beginning. I remember it from yesterday.
Really getting us set up for the theme here. And here we see them doing
Their moves in the field, yeah. Beautiful spirals, great leg position, held for a nice long time.
Now we're going to see the traveling circles. So with a team of 8, it can be hard to do these variations. 4 girls on the outside, 4 on the inside, traveling with circles. The spacing can be challenging, but they seem to be doing quite well with it today and really getting that circle down the ice.
And so sometimes in each element, it's maybe not even required that there would be 2 circles. And sometimes it is, but then other times it's also just worth more points to do 2 circles. So you would really want to try and do whatever you could to up the points.
Oh, and there we just saw a collision during the intersection. That's some of that danger factor we've been talking about.
So those whip intersections allow a lot of, I guess, variability. You're really not going into it straight into your spot. You're going kind of angled into a curve into your spot.
Easy to clip a blade there.
Yes.
We could just see those girls making direct eye contact with the judges, the really dark stare at them.
And we see them move into their pivoting block, which of course requires a minimum of 3 lines. So that's where we see them there. A lot of intensity in those downward kind of facing chins and glares. Fast music to keep the beat too.
Absolutely. Now we're into the no holds block. Trying to maintain the shape of a block while doing our individual moves.
And then a change of placement within the block. Lots of nice arm movements to feature, you know, the intensity of the music. Well done by this team from Nippewa.
Yeah, very nice program.
And they make their way off the ice, and we will then see the last team, the 7th team of this event, make their way onto the ice.
Yeah, so when you have lots of teams in a category, I think, how do the judges and tech specialists keep this all organized? But they're not truly actually ranking the skaters. What they're doing is evaluating each team as they are on the ice, and then the numbers fall where the numbers fall. They're not trying to keep track of who was number 1, 2, 3, or 4.
No, you're not really evaluating whose circle was better.
Right.
You're just evaluating every individual requirement as you're going along, and then rating their overall skill ability, which then formulates this, you know, point system like we've been talking about.
And so here on the replay, we're seeing some beautiful spins there from the Nippewa team.
Yeah, this was their creative element from the very beginning. Lots of power as they come around that corner. Corners are a nice place to generate speed.
Yes. Build up for something like those spirals.
Yep.
Lots of spirals in this program. Must be a strength of like these skaters.
For sure.
That's for sure.
Not a strength of mine.
Takes a lot of flexibility, stretching. So on the ice right now we have Infinity from the Regina Synchronized Skating teams, and they're coached by Janice Johnson and Trisha Goffin. Skaters on this team range in age from 12 to 17.
Correct, and there are 9 of them. They are skating to Brick House, Fields, and Born to Be Alive. So I think we can probably expect quite a bit of pep out of this team.
A lot of moving and shaking, that's for sure. They've already been to Calgary Rose Bowl, and then they also plan to attend the Regina Living Skies competition as well.
And they are going into this in second place, and they are really just kind of a point and a half or so behind the first place team. So they'll be really looking to, kind of pick up and see if they maybe made any kind of mistakes or anything yesterday that they can improve upon. They'll be looking to really up their kind of performance game as far as facial expressions and extension of their legs, and making sure that their feet are up on the turns, and making sure that everything is just perfect, hoping to gain a place.
Absolutely. And a unique kind of side note, both coaches, Trisha and Janice, right now are wearing their skating dresses, as they'll be skating with Adult 3 and Adult 2 here shortly. So their day is really getting going,
so they've got
up speed
a
right
team
now.
that they're coaching, followed by a team they're skating on, and then a flood, and then another team that they're skating on. Yes.
Yeah, so that's a lot of steps to remember, but these two, it shouldn't be a problem.
Day. Yeah. It says that these dresses were chosen as kind of a disco look, and they first chose the song by Calvin Harris, Feels, and then looked for some other kind of disco-y songs. So that's kind of our theme in this one.
Cool. Feeling that disco vibe already here.
The Feels.
Get the feels as we move into the creative element here with some spins, Ina Bowers, all sorts of things to capture the eye.
And so this team has already competed at that Calgary Rose Bowl competition that we've talked about a little bit already, and will also be attending or even hosting Regina's Living Skies competition.
So that traveling circle made it a good distance across the ice. And we've got a change of music here.
Change of music comes a change of element.
Right into the no holds. With some funky arms there. A lot of sass from this team, really bringing it for the judges. So their no holds is covering quite a good distance on this ice.
When we're talking about no holds and footsteps and things like that, it's important that you're choosing steps that are suitable for your team and that they can successfully do. You don't want to try and attempt steps that are too hard for a team and result in either a fall or a step not being called by the tech specialist. So you really want to try to do things that are difficult and challenge your team and really, push them to improve. But you also don't want to be choosing things that are out of their ability, because they're just not simply going to get rewarded for it by the tech specialist.
Absolutely. Here we go for an intersection with a nice turn through that, and the Regina crowd love that. That's
yeah,
for
the
sure.
coaches are jumping over there. Some thumbs up at the girls as they skate by them. And this is their pivoting block, so they pivoted kind of up from around the center, around their coaches by the door, and then back around.
Right into their moves, which was spirals.
And now into the pivoting block. That was a transition before, I guess.
So here's an opportunity for them to really build some speed in their no holds or in their pivoting block.
And you can see this whole adult team from Regina's out here clapping along to the beat, loving it and encouraging them. A lot of support.
And here we go into the line. So finishing their program with the line, and they're bringing it for the judges.
They are. And then split into a two-part line, parallel to each other, some forward, some backwards.
a fun program by
Yeah.
Infinity.
We're sure happy they came all the way to Manitoba to show us that performance.
So that finishes off pre-novice for us. So that flight of 7 teams is now complete. And we'll have to wait to hear all the final scores on that. But now we'll actually be moving into
The Adult 3 competition. So we've got one team from the Adult 3 competition. So like we said, the coaches of this team are just about to step on the ice, and then we'll have a flood, and they're going to come back out again. So that may even be why they've put that flood there, is to give them a little bit of time, because they need to go and change their dresses, maybe change their hairdos a little bit, plus get focused and ready. Adult 3 competition, it's 8 to 20 skaters. So this is back to the events where you can have up to 20 skaters, which of course is pretty hard to find. But 2 minutes and 40 seconds is the required time. So in this event, skaters must have reached the age of 18 this past July, and 75% of those skaters must be at least the age of 35 as of this past July. So Adult 3 is actually, I guess, the eldest of the categories that we're going to see today, and of what we have for skating in Canada.
so a lot of years of skating experience on these teams.
For sure. And we've got 5 required events, or sorry, not events, 5 required elements. So the pivoting line, the rotating circle, a linear block, a wheel element, and an intersection.
And so the team we see here on the ice is Edge from the Regina Synchronized Skating teams. They are coached by Trish Goffin, who's also just coached our last team and now is out here skating as well. We won't tell you the age range because I don't think these ladies would appreciate that, but
Starts at 33.
starts at 33.
Goes up from
and
there.
It doesn't, yeah. They don't look like they're over 33, that's for sure. So this team has been going for over 10 years. They practice once a week, and the music that they'll be skating to is I'll Cover You Reprise.
Sure, yeah, and it's from the musical Rent, and they say that they have loved that musical for many years after seeing it on Broadway in New York, and this was one of the favorite pieces of that music. So I think it'll be familiar to the crowd.
Heather and I were both part of the Regina Synchronized Skating Club. There's a team skating a little bit later, but they noted that they've skated together for several years and have had lots of fun on and off the ice, and we would have to agree with that.
We can vouch for that, I think, yeah. And so 8 members of this team, which is the minimum required by an adult team. So it's always sometimes hard to have a team that's able to compete because you've really got some minimums that you've got to hit, especially as far as ages. And so while they introduce the judging and tech panel, I think it's important to recognize that, you know, there are several teams here today and lots of people involved, lots of athletes, lots of coaches. But there are also a lot of teams that are non-competitive teams that aren't here today, but still put a lot of hours and time into building a program. They maybe skate at ice shows and hockey games and things like that, but maybe for their own reasons can't be here today.
Absolutely, that's a great point, Heather. Edge will begin with their circle element, really soft, gentle music and skating to get us started.
And it says here that they won gold at Calgary Rose Bowl.
Oh, awesome.
And they will, of course, also be competing in Living Skies in Regina later on next month.
You can tell there's a lot of experience on this team just from how they move their arms. It's right down to the fingertips on this team. So these women have solidified their skills for years and years and years. Now it's all in the detail for them.
Yeah, with that experience comes a knowledge of the importance of the facial expressions, the arm movements, and everyone being so uniform. Less experienced skaters would probably not quite understand how important that is.
Yes. Beautiful line here by Edge. Now they've moved into their block. A lot of feeling and emotion.
It was kind of neat how they had 3 pairs and then a single on either end of it.
skating is definitely that of a lifelong sport. You can start when you're in beginner and you can go till you can't go.
Great arm movements, great unison. Even though it's kind of like a serious theme, I think it's obvious that they're really enjoying themselves, even though they're not like smiling about it.
Right. You can sense the passion there.
Yes. And here's this common part of the music that everyone will recognize.
And the beautiful intersection there looked super easy.
Yes.
They made it look really easy.
And very appropriate music, like important when a coach is picking music or a team is picking music, that you're picking something that everyone can kind of relate to. You know, you wouldn't have a beginner team skate to this music, but it's great for an adult team.
Right. What a beautiful performance by Edge. And you can hear the other Regina team that just finished giving a shout out to this team. So
For sure.
yeah, really great skate. Lots of smiles coming off the ice.
And here's their circle that we see. And look at all those chins, just like perfectly tilted at the same angle.
And I will note, you would think as an adult team, you know, you don't maybe practice as often as the younger teams and stuff, but this team has off-ice practice, they have on-ice practice, they're just as dedicated as some of these younger teams, which is really
For
nice
sure.
to see. So the amount of work, like, don't be surprised. Like, these ladies put a ton of hours into this program every year.
And
so.
having, you know, jobs or families or whatever, you know, goes on in everyone's life, it's not necessarily easy to get together.
Absolutely.
Welcome back to Stonewall for the 2018 Prairie Regional Synchronized Skating Championships on Shaw TV. And we'll have the last event of the day, which will be the Adult 2 program.
And so Adult 2, on these teams you can have 8 to 20 skaters with a maximum music time of 3 minutes and 10 seconds. Skaters must have reached the age of 18 by July 1st, and at least 75% of the skaters must have reached the age of 25 by July 1st. And so in Adult 2, there's a number of elements. There appears to be 6 that these teams will be completing. And there's 3 teams in this category.
Yeah, we had 5 required elements from the Adult 3 group, and now we've added 1 required element, which is actually a choice of the creative element or a combined element, which we've talked a little bit about earlier today. But yeah, 3 teams, and the first team up is Diamond Revolution. Oh, sorry, I'm wrong on that. Hazel Ridge Highlights from the Hazel Ridge Skating Club. So they're not very far away from home here.
Yeah, and they are coached by Jessica Watson. She's coached a number of teams today as well as skated on some, so she is a busy person. So this team practices for an hour and 15 minutes once a week. And like all of our adult teams, very busy people with lives, businesses, jobs, families, all those types of things.
Of course, yeah. And I think they've got a pretty fun and upbeat program coming up that really kind of, they've chosen to suit them.
Their music is 50 Ways to Leave Your Lover, I Will Survive, and Hit the Road, Jack. That's my kind of song.
Yes.
So they begin with their intersection here, going through backwards. Did a wonderful job on that.
And they're transitioning down the ice as they move towards their line element.
So this team are a bunch of online shoppers, they admit. That's how they found their outfits for today, so that's lots of fun. And they wanted to include some bling, which you can see on the backs there and in their hair as well.
They're really nice color.
Yeah, that blue really pops as well with the sparkles.
They'll also be attending the Crocus competition in Souris, which is the middle of March. Some cute accentuation of that music there.
Got the crowd going, that's for sure.
And this is now their circle element, which they are required to travel.
And they're generating some nice speed in this circle as they prepare to travel here. Lots of fun with this music, that's for sure. And even the other team that's going to skate next is on the sidelines dancing right now.
Yeah.
Getting the whole crowd going. And now we're moving into the block. And some dramatic arms there to go with the music.
And again, music that the crowd likes. Yeah, it's really nice to see this team that'll come up and skate next, competing against them, right here just supporting and cheering them on, clapping along. It's really a nice community to be involved in.
And they've just made a nice transition there into their wheel, and so they've chosen a 3-spoke, and they're definitely telling Jack to hit the road.
Yeah.
No doubt there, Jack's not welcome.
No.
Working on even spacing there for the centers as they attach, actually.
And now they'll move into their final required element, which is a creative element. So you see some Welsh jumps.
A beautiful spin there in the center.
And some highlighters dancing in the middle.
What a fun program.
Great performance. And so we're kind of at the last, I guess, section of the program today, which means there's a lot of people here waiting, cheering them on. The medal presentations will happen after these skaters are done. So there's a lot of people kind of waiting before they go home that are here sitting and watching and cheering.
So in the replay, you see their intersection here, 2 lines at a 90-degree angle going back to back. You only get to look over your shoulder a little bit, can't do a whole head turn there, so you gotta really trust your partners in that one.
And this is their pivoting line. Into their circle, and they're really like, that was that strong part that they're really, you know, showing their theme to the judges. It's one thing to get all your steps figured out and have everyone, you know the steps every time, but then to add in all these arm movements and head movements is, you know, really adding another element to it.
So the next team on the ice is Diamond Revolution from Skate Saskatoon, and this team are nighttime warriors. Apparently they practice at 11 p.m. at night.
Really?
So a skating sort of norm is like these early morning practices or early evening, but 11 p.m., that's...
Ice time is hard to come by sometimes, and sometimes you just kind of have to take what your home club rink will give you. Or, you know, maybe they have kids at home and they need to put the kids to bed before they can make it out to do their own, you know, free time activities. And so 15 members of this team, ranging in age starting at 24, and again, we won't tell you the upper age limit. This team was established in the 70s.
And they are skating to Believer by Imagine Dragons, so really fun, sort of intense music for this group, and you can tell their dresses are right on point for this music.
It says here that everyone's allowed to come with an idea for music, and then they vote, and it comes down to the top 3, and then it's chosen from there on which of their top opportunities are. Beautiful spins.
Yeah, great creative, lots of things to draw your eye to. And right into their traveling circle here.
And this team is second out of 3 going into the skate.
So they've got 2 circles going opposite directions and both in no-holds format. So that can be really challenging for spacing and traveling, but they seem to be doing a really good job of that.
And it says that their dresses were kind of chosen off of a steampunk theme, and they were designed and created in Saskatoon.
Very cool.
Beautiful spacing on this open circle. And it looks like a whip pass-through coming up.
A really nice job on their intersection there.
Great extension.
You can definitely feel the theme coming alive here.
The dresses are beautiful with like a big full skirt. Another dress your mom liked yesterday.
Yes. Dramatic hair flip. I'm a huge fan of those.
Anything drama.
Anything drama. So this is their wheel, which they were in a four-spoke formation.
And then they exit and come back in again.
Lots of highs and lows in this music to really bring some interest.
It's a nice beat. It's not too fast to try and skate to, and it's not too slow that you have to like double time it to have it work.
And we're going to be going into the pivoting line here. So they've chosen to go in 2 lines.
Look at all of those heads facing out, watching that end of the pivot move along.
Taking a strong look there at the judges, letting them know who's in charge.
And they kind of pivot around that corner, picking up speed, entering their block. Lots of drama.
Yes.
They've even got very dark lips. It's the first time today we've seen really dark lips. They're kind of a blue when you see them up close in person.
Oh, what a fun ending to that program.
And again, another team that's come a long way to come and skate today. So
Absolutely.
we're happy to have them.
Really nice to see Saskatoon here today.
The adult teams are able to qualify for their adult nationals competition. So depending on what the placing is, I'm sure whoever is able to compete will be looking for a spot there.
Wonderful.
Oh, and this is that very beginning creative move. It was very well done. There are clearly some girls who have put a lot of time into their own single skating.
Really nice intersection there as well. Great turns, great spacing.
So now we have the results from the prior competitions. So the pre-novice event, which had the most that we've had today for any teams, had 7 teams. Pemina Pizzales was the team that won that event, followed by Infinity from Regina, Ice Precise from Neepawa, Slick Ice from Saskatoon, Silhouettes from Notre Dame, Hazel Ridge Highlights from Hazel Ridge, and Ice Fever from Tisdale. And then in the Adult 3 competition, there was only 1 team, and we just saw them. So that was Edge from the Regina Synchronized Skating Team, and they finished with 32.26 points.
Nice. So on the ice now is our final team of the entire competition, and it's Virtuoso. And they are from the Regina Synchronized Skating Team. They are coached by Janice Johnson and Trisha Goffin. And this is the team Heather and I skated with back in the day. And so teams range, or ages range on this team from 30 to...
they don't really tell
give
us
us
the
an upper
upper
limit. They skate once a week and also do off ice. And they have a fun little program here for us today.
Yeah, and they have already skated in the Rose Bowl competition in Calgary, and then we'll also be skating in the competition in Regina coming up later on. And so you maybe, if you can look closely enough, even though they all look very similar, we'll recognize some of them that have already skated in the Adult 2 division.
Yes. This team has a lot of characters. They definitely can bring the expression to life.
It's especially fun when you personally know them, isn't it?
Yes.
So this is their creative element.
Really fun dresses that really go with the theme. Here we are in the pivoting line. So they have 2 lines, parallel times going together. A little bit of sass there with their arm movements. This is another one of the Regina adult teams that spends a lot of time doing off ice and off ice to make sure that the steps, the arms, everything's in sync.
Yeah, there's no uncertainty at all. So there's their line, and we see what looks like another whip pass-through being set up. Oh, not a whip pass-through, but one of those, you know, half square ones.
Really nice there with some turns in it as well. So this is the traveling circle, unattached, lots of speed. And now they've transitioned into two circles going opposite directions of each other, but still traveling and still in that no holds formation. Lots of arm movements as well to capture the judge's eye.
And so important that all of your skaters, again, have similar single skating abilities so that, you know, a circle isn't moving too fast for some people and that no one is, you know, moving out of their own speed.
Absolutely.
And now we move into their block formation. So 4 lines. We've seen a lot of blocks with 3 lines due to limitations of the numbers of skaters. It's really nice to see 4. And then in this, you see that kind of variation where some are skating backwards and some forwards.
Cute little hop element there. And they've really pivoted that block, coming around with lots of expression on their faces. Really seem to be having a fun time out there. And that wheel is moving.
Yes.
Really nice 3-spoke formation there into a 4-spoke.
Yes, their unison is so good, hey?
Yeah, really strong unison. That's the dedication in the off ice, and then,
Absolutely.
you know, just people being present and
Yep.
really committed team. So really great skate by Regina. Nice to see some familiar faces out there. And so here we have just some of the replay. You can see all the different things the feet are doing there as they go into their creative element.
And this was their line where they were 2 lines and do their, you know, full pivot around and then pivot back again.
Getting into that circle with some fun footwork. You can see them having a fun time looking at each other there. Like, actually looks like people are giggling and laughing.
Yeah.
So,
And this team, of course, now has to hop on a bus and go all the way back to Regina, so their day's not over.
yes.
But speaking of days being over, that was the final team for the Adult 2 event, which is the last event in the program today. So that does it from us here at the 2018 Prairie Regional Synchro Skating Championships on Shaw TV.
Thank you so much for joining us. If you missed any of the broadcasts, you can catch it on Shaw TV Winnipeg's YouTube page.
And from Stonewall, Manitoba, we wish you well and hope you continue to watch the great programming on Shaw TV.